This is Fit Amputee powered by James Robert Fitness, and this is episode 19 of my podcast. And today's guest, I've got Declan Doyle. He's the owner of busyfitparents.com. So thanks again, Declan, for coming on the show.
No problem, James.
It's just, there you go, it's come back now. So first question I'd like to ask you, Declan, is how you got into personal training in the first place? And what was the catalyst to get you to that point?
I suppose always into sport, James. When I was younger, I suppose from the age of 12 onwards, I kind of played a lot of team sports. And kind of team sports. I've been all around team sports. I use a lot of training as well, I suppose, when I was younger to kind of keep me out of trouble, if you like. And it kind of stayed with me since then. I think being around a team or any environment, it certainly can help with kind of the fundamentals you need in life, like being punctual, discipline, work ethic. So for me, any schooling or education system, for me should make kind of sport be heavily part of the curriculum. It just imbuilds all the fundamentals. I think you need a lot of them through life. So from a young age, mate.
And it's something we talked about briefly off air. Obviously, you've kind of moved away, initially starting off in personal training and more so moving across, obviously, to becoming how would we say it? How our paths cross. Obviously, you were my tutor, obviously, on my personal training course now. What is it? About almost 2 years ago now.
Years ago. Yeah, we're getting old, man.
And obviously now you've moved on to alongside with having this online business. What has, as you probably would attest to, how has the industry changed from when you started to now?
Yeah, hugely. I mean, I think the gym scene alone, even in the last 10 years, I mean, when I was 15, 16, like the gym was for all the rich kids, you know what I mean? Because like the whole idea for having a pool and being able to join a gym and pay such and such amount was kind of unheard of, you know what I mean? So, but now I suppose with the commercial gym scene, they're certainly making a lot easier to join and get involved. So that's one aspect, I suppose, that has changed, like the commercial side of things. And I would say that it's a lot of it's probably due to trying to capitalize on, as you well know, the big obesity problem we've got here. Disease now is rife in most places in UK and Europe. So I can certainly see why it's grown commercially and why it's grown from the state of our health climate as well.
Okay. And then obviously, as you probably attest to, obviously there's this growing trend of more and more, obviously, trainers going on online. Why do you think that we're kind of shying away from the gym a little bit and going more so onto the internet?
It's a great point, man. I think, I don't think we're shying away from the gym. I think, believe it or not, I think the online thing helps from a convenience point of view if it's the right context. So, for example, most of the people I coach are parents. So, coming home from a long day's work, doing a few school runs in between, driving to and from the gym might take 2 to 3 hours out of their day, And I think just from a family point of view, a lot of people maybe can't carve out that time. So maybe that works from a clientele point of view in the right context. But I just think from a trainer point of view, it's one where if you think about it, we've never lived in a time so much where we can communicate on the scale we have. So it makes a lot of sense to me that you're seeing a lot more coaches go online. Equally, I would say one of the biggest issue is a lot of people go online because they think it's just a quick turnaround, So that all they have to do is open up their online business, and they can turn over like £100,000 in a couple of months or something, So it still, for me, needs to be for the right reasons. That you still have to coach. That's what I really like about the PT industry. Like, the good coaches deserve everything they get, So, and the coaches that are in it for a quick buck, are kind of found out pretty quick, I think, They might be found out over 3 or 4 months, but I think, like, they're playing a short game almost, and it shouldn't really be like that, but that's the trade-off we have when we live in a society where we can communicate at scale,
Okay, and it's obviously the one you touched upon. Obviously, the coaches and trainers that do take that short route. Is it a case of, in some cases, that the trainer is trying to get a foothold in the industry, and obviously, because it's obviously in terms of the success rate of trainers that actually succeed, I think it's, what was it, in the first year, I think it's like 85% people that fail. You're thinking, is it in terms of the, how would I put this? Would the training academies be somewhat at fault for that? Obviously, because obviously they don't. I wouldn't. Trying to not be too politically incorrect.
Mm-hmm.
They're not that fussed if the person succeeds once they've finished the course. If you know what I mean.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose it's probably a catch-22. I mean, I suppose the training academies are providing a platform, for people to kind of fast track their route into the industry. But I think people shouldn't be under no illusion that, like any other career, like, if you want to really help people, you need to be consistently learning. You know what I mean? So the top coaches and the top earners in the world, and like, there's one trend you'll notice between them all is that they're consistently thriving to improve. So yeah, I mean, I suppose it kind of swings. I mean, you could bring anything into play in that context. I mean, you could talk about the government need to be seen to be putting more people back into work. So there's a pressure to show that's going on. There's a pressure to show that's scale. But yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it is down to being self-aware of, look, is this really what I want to do, and is this really a thing I can look at it long term? And if the answer is yes, then whether you spend 4 years in university or 12 weeks on a course, if you're passionate about it, you'll come up trumps either end. You know what I mean? So for me, it's, people questioning the process and saying, look, do I really want to do this, and can I look at it as a long-term thing? And if the answer is yes, then of course they should be going all in on that,
And then probably to look back on that point you were saying, obviously it's probably more of a mindset perspective that the coaches probably should look at it. Obviously you touch upon it, that obviously it's looking at it and having a hard look at yourself as to why you want to get into that industry, and obviously what are your reasons behind it, be it, like you say, which is not a good thing, obviously, about making money, as opposed to actually wanting, which with any health and across the board, is obviously looking at trying to get people to be the healthier that they can be. And obviously it's something that my online coach talks to me about. Obviously it's, if you're in it for, obviously in terms of, say, the online training, if you're in it for the money, you're in it for the wrong reasons, because obviously
But
if you focus on it being all about the money, you're in it for the wrong reasons, as opposed to, okay, it's nice to be able to get an income uh, for something you enjoy, but at the end of the day, you are trying to help the person the best that you can, um, be it on most occasions it would be either predominantly weight loss. You're trying to get them out of generally a rut that they're stuck in, because obviously it's obviously a big one nowadays. Obviously you've got countless ways that you could lose weight, be it diets and any such thing, and obviously it's something I touched upon on other podcasts. It's obviously from a yo-yo diet, and obviously you're gonna lose the weight, as obviously research will prove, no matter what term unquote diet you go on, because obviously it's a calorific
restriction, yeah.
restriction. Because obviously, if you eat less and you exercise more, or you eat less and you do more activity, you're going to lose weight no matter what you eat. Obviously, in the short term, there's no problem with that, but obviously, long term, say the say for example, free from ranges, say for example, something you touched upon, I think a few weeks ago on your Facebook Live streams, obviously with and gluten free is probably a massive one at the moment. Obviously, with people obviously who don't have celiac disease, eating those products and not knowing that it's got within them obviously higher concentration of sugar, salts, obviously for the taste. Whereas if they just eat normal food, they wouldn't have that issue with the increased sugar and salt intake.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's look, it's all self-awareness, isn't it? It's all like, and you touched on it there by saying, are you doing it for the right reason? So whether you're a coach or whether you're a person trying to make or improve your health, so you've got to question that process: is why am I actually doing it? And yeah, that's a good point. I suppose you can lose weight, as long as you're eating less and expending more energy. Then research tells us you'll lose a certain amount of weight for a certain period of time. But it's always going to be why and what is the behavior behind losing that weight and consistently sustaining that, and more importantly, are you happy in that process over a long period of time? So for me, yeah, in this day and age, if there's one thing I think people are going to be talking about a lot more now is kind of auditing your own behavior. Where am I now in relation to the change cycle? And I talked about this last week on my own live stream. I just, not enough people now are questioning him. Were like, where is my change mindset now? So, like, easy example: if you've been on a diet, yo-yo diet, off a diet, binging on a diet, yo-yo diet, and you've been doing that for 20 years, well, you've probably created 20 years of habits that are really on automation now. So that won't change going on the next diet in a week or two, So you've got to be really self-aware. You've got to audit your behavior, and you've got to really meet yourself where you are. I tell clients that a lot. Meet yourself where you are now, and at least if you start there, you're starting in the place where you are, and not where you want to be from a visual point of view. So I think a lot more people need to talk about that. It is tough to break through the clouds, because there'll be a new fad come around at Christmas time, and there'll be 3 or 4 fads after it. But it's up to us as coaches, I suppose, to start talking more about it. Certainly, And I think as soon as people do start realise, the penny will drop for a lot of people.
And it's probably one of the things I brought up in an earlier podcast, obviously with mindset. It's probably something that the fitness industry uh, probably shies away
Yeah,
from. And obviously, we're all about obviously improving the cardiovascular system and the aesthetic look of people, but we don't generally touch upon, as we were talking about, that mindset aspect of people's behaviors. And obviously, at the end of the day, if you don't change the behavior of somebody, they're going to be stuck in that vicious cycle
it's
forever.
uh, uh, it's 100%. I mean, I couldn't agree more. I mean, it's like we know from science that the brain automatically wants to make easy decisions day in day out. So if your behavior has been making like decisions that take you away from improving your health, then that's what the brain knows now for a period of time. So in order to get out of that rut, as you said, you've got to look at it and go and make it a transitional phase. So it's not going to be an easy jump to go from doing no exercise training or do no cooking for yourself or doing no shopping for yourself for 20 years and expecting it all to gel in week 1 of January 1st, you know? So, um, yeah, it's something that the fitness industry, I think, will focus a lot more on, and you'll probably see a lot more on the psychological part of coaching, I would think, in the next couple of years. And I think that's where it needs to go. Yeah, because if this whole joining a gym worked so much, you know, and we've more gyms more than ever, and it's so cheap to join a gym. So if all this exercise stuff worked so much, then why have we obesity has never been so high? Why is depression never been so high? Why is mental illness never been so high? You know, it's people aren't focusing on mindset an awful lot. So it's certainly a place where I think fitness needs to go next. Certainly.
It's probably maybe apparent more so as I wouldn't know if it would go be the next few years. Obviously, it's coming. It's coming. I think obviously, like you say, there's trends with fitness, and obviously, things come and go in terms of what's new, and then obviously there's the cycles of things coming in and out of fashion. And I think obviously what I've seen from obviously I'm speaking to other trainers and having guests on the show. Obviously, it's a massive thing with the behavior of individuals relating to not just fitness, but obviously nutrition as well. And obviously, I think probably, but in terms of what I see, is obviously probably Europe and Britain are maybe a little bit further behind than say from my understanding and talking to other coaches. Obviously, say the American continent and obviously Asia, they're a little bit further ahead in terms of that aspect of the fitness industry. And obviously, like speaking to coaches, obviously they're looking to obviously bring their businesses into the European market to bring that into more apparent. And obviously you've got obviously psychological retreats and things of that nature, so it's
Yeah,
probably
man. I think. It's always. I mean, practices of being self-aware has always been there. So, like yoga, meditation, like that goes back hundreds of years, right? So, it's always been there to start taking a deep breath, questioning yourself, what's going on around you. But I suppose from a coaching perspective, the problems coaches have, and I mean people have, is how do you coach that in to your life to make it effective? So that's where I think, yes, you might get other countries have kind of put a structure to it, but yeah, there's still, I suppose, there's still a part of me that says, coaches need to be doing their utmost to try and look at ways that they can make the intervention with a client that is effective for them. So, and that's the whole idea, right? As of being a personal coach. So yeah, I hope it goes there a lot, and I'm sure you'll start to see a lot of it more around. And it's certainly, people are starting to talk a lot more about how behavior is so important. So hopefully, yeah, we start seeing a lot more improvements in it, certainly.
And then in terms of, obviously, we talk about mindset. I believe that obviously you've, with the online aspect of the coaching, I think you get a little bit more time to set aside time to get to know that person and kind of see how their behavior is towards certain things. Whereas in the gym, you've kind of got that initial consultation, and then you start working with them, but then you've only got that hour to train with them, and then you've got to kind of say, well, I'll see you, for example, if it was
next week.
next week, and so you kind of don't get that as much personal connection as you would do online, I believe. And is that something you would probably attest to?
Yeah, I think certainly. First of all, I know great coaches who are fantastic in the gym, and they're fantastic outside the gym, and that's just because they're great coaches, right? So they know the coaching side from inside the gym. They know how to coach mindsets outside when the clients aren't there. But I suppose as an online coach, you probably focus on it a little bit more because, for example, you probably need to drive the person you're working with independently more because you're not in that live play 3 times a week. So if you write a coaching program for someone and you want them to train Monday, Wednesday, Friday, you're not really accountable in a gym perspective because you're an online coach, right? So people could really say, yeah, well, I train Monday, Wednesday, Friday, but how would you know? So it's certainly when I think you're more conscious of how your impact is, because you need them, as I said, you need them to match to start making certain behaviors and start making that intervention in their lives to get consistency, right? So I suppose, yeah, I think it almost makes you a better coach over time, I would imagine, you know what I mean? Because it's something you really got to drill down into. You've got to really take people to try and instill some form of commitment and some form of consistency to try and get them, in a place where they're happy to go, So, yeah, and here's the thing, I'm no psychologist or no expert, it's as new to me as anyone. I just know, I suppose, that it's needed, you know what I mean? And if there's one thing I spot, I think the whole people being very self-aware now is going to be one of the key triggers in getting people sustainable change. It needs to be that, because showing up to the gym 3 times a week won't do it. That won't cut it. Because if that cut it, we wouldn't have half the problems that we have now. So that's the only place it can go. So yeah, it's all new and learning as a coach, I suppose, as well. But yeah, you consistently try and look at ways where you can help people create that behavior that, as I said, gets them where they want to go.
Okay, that's quite an interesting point. And then the last question I'd like to ask you is, obviously you focus more on helping busy parents, obviously, like your website attest to. What are some of the tips that you would, well, not just to parents, you could probably say to anybody? What would be some of the tips that you would kind of suggest on ways to not just improve fitness, but general time management type skills and things like that to obviously when people say, oh, I haven't got money to do fitness, what are some ways they could kind of get grips with their finances and things like that?
Cool. I mean, just to give you some context there. I mean, the whole reason why I picked, I suppose, that angle on the industry is one, I'm a parent myself, so I suppose I identify with not the struggles, but certainly when you have a child, you've got to be a little bit more productive with your time in order to keep up with your health, right? So, and I struggle with it a lot. I'm a tutor and a coach, and I'm into my fitness thing and all that. But I struggle with myself. I was like, whoa, this is a part of my life that I've never had to do before. So I knew there was something in it, because if I'm feeling that way, and I'm in the fitness game all my life, then I can only imagine what people are doing that are not into fitness. You know what I mean? So it's easy to get caught in that rut, as you say, as a new parent, because the first thing a parent says is, "Oh, the child comes first." My daughter comes first, so they almost become, you know, you don't. You become Plan Z now, right? Plan A is you need to look after your family, and that comes first, and that's it. So the number one thing I notice with myself, I suppose, which I try and coach in with any new client, is I notice a lot of my life there was too many distractions going on that I didn't need, right? So I've no doubt people watching this podcast, listening to this podcast, there's certainly areas in their life and things in their life that they can eliminate that they don't really need, right? And what I like to use is what we call an 80-20 analysis, right? So, for example, like most things, for example, like in training, for example, right? We might go to the gym maybe 2 or 3 times a week, right? Which is only, if you think about it, a small percentage of the time. So it might be 2 or 3 hours a week versus the other 100 odd hours. So, but the response we get from working out in that 2 or 3 hours a week can give us lots back, right? And that's only a small percentage to invest. So I like to get people to take a look at of their life and go, look, what's really the stuff you need, and what's really the stuff that's just time consuming, and that's you can really either eliminate or automate, right? And I use that term a lot with clients. I say, right, what can we eliminate and what can we automate? Especially with a parent, because I'm telling you, when you become a parent, you love automation. So you love things being taken care of for you, right? So I certainly get people into that habit of going, Jesus, I don't need 5 TVs in my house. I don't need 4 iPads, or I don't need Netflix, BT, 3 Wi-Fi. There's certainly things like you can go back to 5 or 6 years ago, or even 10 years. It could be 20 years ago. We got on just fine without half the stuff we've got now. So that would be step number one for me, because as soon as you get into that mindset of like questioning, do I really need all this, or do I really need to invest a lot of time in this? You start to notice little slots open up in your life, right? You're saving 2 hours here, 3 hours here. You're not as stressed now because you don't have much time-consuming tasks, so stress comes down, sleep better. So for me, that's a big trigger for people. It's really like a simple task would be for your audience now, right? Would get out a blank sheet of paper, split it in half, and go write down everything in their life that's either stressful, time consuming, or costly, and then question every one of those points, right? So question every point, say, right, this is time consuming, or this is stressful, or this is costing me money. Can I eliminate it, or can I automate it? And I guarantee you, there's definitely stuff on that list that they can go, you know what, I can chuck this, you know. So, and I'm constantly doing that. And whenever I find myself in a position where I'm starting to cloud judgment and get really busy, I go back and do that time and time again, because I know that's one of the biggest, that's probably one of the biggest issues with people. And it's not going to get any easier, right? Because we live in a very connected world now. So there's so many places that we can get distracted during your day. Whether that's social media or listening to bloody podcasts like we're doing now, or there's so many reasons to pull you out of that. What really matters, and there's only a few things in life that really matter, and health is definitely one of them. So that's got to be prioritized, and the only way to get into a habit of prioritizing is eliminating stuff that's not contributing towards it, So, yeah, that would be tip number one, James, mate.
That's some definitely very useful information, and obviously, like you say, it helps alleviate that issue of time management.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man, and people know, I could talk to people and they know what the issue is, so they'll tell me, look, I'm doing X, Y, and Z, but your next question is always, well, are you going to take action on it then? So it always requires an action step. So people listening to this now need an action step. So no point listening to podcasts and not doing anything about it, right? So take out that blank sheet of paper and actually do the bloody task now. And I guarantee you, even if you take one thing off, that'll be 5-10 minutes or £20 save, or and if you get into that mindset, it's amazing where it can take you. You probably create more time to do stuff you've always wanted, more time for you and your family, more time for your own projects or your own goals in life. It's certainly one that I know if I didn't do, I wouldn't nowhere near the amount of stuff I know, So, yeah, time is, as I say, time is the only commodity you can't trade. We can trade everything else, but as soon as we give our time away, it's gone. So someone's taking it from us, So I was reading a study once, which is interesting. There was this nurse in Sweden, I think, somewhere, where she was, I think she was in a hospital, and she interviewed basically patients that were on their deathbed. So her job was in the study to go around and find out what people's last wish was when they were about to die, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the number one thing that popped up, out of all last people's wishes was, I wish we had more time. I wish I had more time. But it's too late then, right? I wish I'd done this, or I wish I had more time. So the studies are out there to say that people, that time matters. And but yes, we go around all day and let people take it from us. You know what I mean? And not just people, but distractions, work, social media, TV. And it'll come to a point where you realise, bloody hell, I should have really cracked down on this. And then it could be too late, So, yeah, I'm glad I read that study.
Well, like you say, there's some useful stuff out there. So I think I'll wrap the podcast up for today. So thanks again, Declan, for coming on the show.
Cheers, James. It was a pleasure, man, and I'll catch up with you soon.
And then, if anybody wanted to connect with you via social media and whatnot, what would be the best form of way for them to get in touch with you?
Yeah, yeah, you can find me over at easyfitparent.com, and I'm on Facebook as well. So if you throw my name into Facebook, it's Declan Doyle, I'll pop up somewhere. And yeah, feel free to comment, ask questions, or whatever you want to do. And yeah, let's get connected.
So, once again, thanks, Declan, for coming on.
Cheers, James. I'll catch up with you soon, mate.
Alright. And then
Take care.
for everybody else, this podcast will be aired every Thursday. And until next week, I will see you then.